This conference will now be recorded.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call the Plan Committee Ordinance Working Session meeting to order. It is July 14th, 2026 at 12 noon. And on our agenda, we've got the Protected Waterfront Ordinance, accessory building structures, building heights, and signs. So what I'd like to do is concentrate again on the Protected Waterfront Ordinance. I met with Brent and Kim, and we attempted to coordinate all the comments we had last round. And I think we've got a clean copy where all the comments are in. And also, I think we've covered in here, but still needs review of all the initial comments and suggestions that people had about the ordinance. So here's my goal. If we could just concentrate on this today and get all the way through it. And then if we feel comfortable enough that we have a clean copy, bring it to our meeting in 2 weeks. And if we're comfortable with that, take it to the full plan committee for approval. And then we can get it to the board, which would be August. And if the board had any comments, we'd have time to do another round. So that would be my goal. And maybe it's good with everybody. I'll just start from the top. Okay. The intent. Rick, I think you've had a chance to review this and it now reflects, I think, your original comments and suggestions on that thing.
Only if the word leeway is included.
Doing that?
Just joking.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. It's still
We
there.
got hung up on that one.
Some leeway. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
We can live with leeway.
Yeah.
Okay, then under permitted uses, the thing that's changed here is we now have under permitted uses a reproduction. And these definitions, basically, we kind of boiled down what we originally had. And number one is residence destroyed by natural disaster or fires in this district may be reproduced using the former dimensions and location, subject to design review. So it's no longer conditional use. And then number two, reproduction of a replica of the existing structure, subject to design review and 1728. And if you go back to 1728, there's the definition. Why don't we jump back there of reproduction? And we modified this slightly by taking out words like exact, knowing that that would be very difficult. So we say a house reproduction. A house reproduction means creating a replica of the existing residence in terms of size and volumes. Unique features, materials, and architectural details of the original house must match the project within this district, including design and materials, which must be sourced to be replicated or recreated to ensure authenticity. Intricate elements such as moldings, windows, and other unique characteristics are essential to the reproduction. And then we added B, design criteria. Original materials not available for reproduction may be recreated with modern materials subject to design review and the criteria in 1726, which is the historic district ordinance.
Are we talking about that paragraph right now?
Sure.
I'm just trying to take a note. I was suggesting in the first sentence,
Of A or B?
A.
Okay.
Now we're on 8A, correct?
Yes.
Not the definition, which is the same wording. Under definitions, right?
Right.
We're gonna reproduce it there.
Right.
A house reproduction means to create a replica of existing residence in terms of size, volume. How about adding and appearance? It's not just size and volume. You can go on and then talk about features.
Okay.
So it could be redundant, but we do want it to not just be the same size and volume, but to look like, right?
Yeah, I'm good with that. So it'd be size, comma, volume, and appearance.
And appearance, right? This is more editorial, but this possibly a little cleaner to say unique features, materials, and architectural details of the original house must be replicated instead of must match the project. I feel strongly about that. It was just, and I think you can eliminate within this district. That seems obvious, right?
Within the district, I would agree, I'm not much replicate the,
Must be replicated.
Must be replicated.
but that's not gonna make sense, and, oh, must be replicated and then period? I mean, then comma after this, so get rid of the project within this
Right,
district?
right. Must be replicated, comma, including design.
Okay,
Yeah, and I think the next phrase after that should be changed as well.
Thank you. What's your suggestion?
I would, yeah, after materials, comma, I would put an and in there, and which must be sourced to replicate, get rid of the and, replicate or recreate. I mean, speak more in the active voice, which I think is clearer.
must be source to be,
All right,
so get rid of B, so to replicate or recreate to ensure authenticity.
what's your overall suggestion?
Start with the which, what would you suggest? Rick?
To make it more, you said present.
Yeah, ensuring, maybe get rid of the two, ensuring authenticity. So and which must be sourced to replicate or recreate to ensuring, I don't know. It seemed kind of wordy the way it was. Kind of,
I went in a different direction just to complicate matters, but I agree it's a little clumsy. My first question is whether design, the relative clause, which must be sourced, modifies materials. Correct? It does not modify design.
Right.
So I think that's part of your concern too, that the way it reads, it could including design and materials, it's kind of a pair when you say it. And then you wonder if the relative clause, which must be sourced, modifies both of those.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So my suggestion was to just put, you can make two sentences out of it. I think that's your suggestion, right? Must be replicated, including design and any materials. And then you gotta eliminate the comma.
What if we just put a period after including design and materials, period? And then say the materials.
must be sourced to ensure authenticity.
That works.
Shorter sentences are better.
Yeah, right. All right, so how does it read?
I'm just breaking it myself. So the previous sentence would end at including design and materials, period. The materials must be sourced to replicate or recreate.
I would just say must be sourced to ensure authenticity.
Okay, must be sourced to. Good, I'm good with that. Is everyone good with those changes?
So basically, you've got to find things that replicate or recreate what's there.
But, and it's pretty much what we allow right now in the whole historic district, modern materials.
Just so that you fall under the permitted use part of the ordinance.
Makes sense.
Yeah. And then, last sentence, intricate elements such as moldings, windows, and other unique characteristics are essential to the reproduction. Go with that? And then I guess the second sentence is, maybe it's becoming irrelevant now under design criteria. What we're trying to do is emphasize that there's options if original materials aren't available, but.
I think it helps to have that spelled out.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's necessary.
Is it purely if it's not available? I mean, if original siding was just a horizontal lap cedar siding, but they wanted to do an engineered, which is molded off of cedar siding, it has the same appearance, is the only carve out if it's not sourceable anymore.
That's a good question.
So that we consider LP siding, is that engineered?
Yeah,
That's what everybody's using.
Is your question, Brent, that B is intended to address situations, only situations, where they can't get the original material?
that's my question. Is that the only carve outs?
Yeah.
Physically can't get them anymore.
It's what if you want to use something else?
Yeah.
Want to
So
use a
we
modern
want to use an
material.
LP smart side.
Yeah.
Or if they've, masonry wainscoting or, or stone fireplace or something, that's actual full-size stones. And now, and you don't see that often anymore. It's the split face, whether it's engineered or just split stone, could be real stone. You can still hit real stone, full size.
Yeah, that's really a question of the intent. You're probably saying you can substitute, only you can't get it.
Right.
Or you can substitute as long as it looks the same, but still possibly get the original one that you just want to upgrade. Something.
Well, let's see, in the previous paragraph, did we exclude the same way that if the original materials are not available, the features
And we
must
say.
be replicated during design, materials must be sourced to ensure. So the paragraph A doesn't really exclude the substitution of modern materials, the way I read that, but paragraph D, it kind of does by saying original materials not available. I don't know. I guess we could add another sentence.
Well, first we have to decide if we want to say that. In other words, if you just want to substitute for the sake of upgrading something more contemporary or more modern or more maintenance free, you can do that even though original is
Or if the original is triple the cost, right?
a. Well, yeah.
Yeah, and then,
Personally, I mean, I'm sort of willing to give a little leeway,
right,
as long as it looks the same.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
It's coming with LP smart siding.
Yeah, right.
What if we just take out original materials not available? What if we say reproduction may be recreated with modern materials subject to design review and design criteria?
Yeah. And reproduction refers back to the entire house reproduction.
does that sound good legally?
No comment.
Your
Okay.
words, your words. I don't want to get too far from the whole idea of reproduction, because that's what we're really looking for. But
Production.
I think reproduction may be recreated, Reproduction may use modern materials. That reproduction may be recreated doesn't make sense.
No.
Reproduction may be
Well,
accomplished with
recreated.
modern materials. Reproduction may be,
You're making it look original by recreating it with modern materials.
Okay, reproduction may be recreated. Okay,
Be
okay,
used
yeah.
for reproduction.
Pardon me?
Modern materials, start with modern materials may be used for reproduction, comma.
I would leave the recreated in, because then you're defining it a little bit more.
Very see what you.
I would still leave recreated in, because if you say modern materials may be used, you're still trying
Yeah,
to
then we kind of
recreate the look.
really open up the door to like, oh, I want to go with all modern materials and they don't quite match. So the reproduction
Kind
needs
of trying to recreate the reproduction.
Mhm.
Modern materials may be used in creation, subject to design or design.
modern materials may be
Substitute,
used. Substituted?
substitute for original materials consistent with the intent of 8A. So that they understand that in so doing that they have to comply with paragraph A. Subject to design review and design criteria.
I like the word substitute.
So modern materials may be substituted for original materials not available for reproduction.
But that's what we say above. I don't see it as adding.
But the point of A is that whatever they do, it has to replicate, it has to ensure authenticity, right? I mean, isn't that the main idea?
Yeah.
And so in B, we can, I think that paragraph needs to say that they can substitute modern materials for original materials only insofar as is consistent with the intent of A.
That's the most specific.
So we would say modern materials may be substituted for original materials, subject to A.
Well, no,
Or
I
consistent.
like consistent with,
Consistent with the intent of 8A.
not just substituted, but they gotta be substituted, so be the same, look the same.
Okay, why don't you tell me what that should read then? Starting with modern materials.
Rick, you got it?
I'm
He's working on it.
I'm writing at my slow pace.
Modern materials may be substituted for original materials, subject to intent of subparagraph A.
Yeah, but we want to add more than just substituted. It's gotta be consistent with the exact replication or something like
Why
that.
it says it has to be consistent with paragraph, subparagraph A.
Provisions.
Being substituted for original materials.
I like the way it read. It says it right there, original materials not available for reproduction may be recreated with modern materials, subject to design review and design criteria in 1726.
Isn't that what we're just
Yeah,
saying? I think we're just reorganizing.
no, I think there's a substantive issue here,
Okay,
whether to do this only if original materials are not available.
Yeah.
Or whether you can do it for reasons of cost and efficiency and all the others. And I'm with Andy, I think it should be, you know, if it looks the same, even if the original materials are now 10 times more expensive than a modern substitute, I'm in favor of letting the appearance, as long as the appearance doesn't change.
Mhm.
I get the impression that Grace is more, and believe more on the only if original materials are not available, but
No, I'm fine with that too. I think it's,
guess, yeah, I don't want the cost to be 10 times more for the original material,
Mhm.
and when you can get the same look with a modern material.
Mhm.
I guess we do need to change it.
So Rick, you've got modern materials.
he's still working.
He's still working.
I see
I'm glad we're not paying you by
I'm
the
writing
hour.
so fast that I can't read it.
I see
So
your-
sorry.
I see your lips moving,
Yeah.
so I know you got it.
What I have so far is a okay, so let's see, design criteria. Modern materials may only be substituted for original materials consistent with the provisions of 8 sub A and subject to design review and design criteria of section 17.26 historic district.
That works.
The person that really counts here, did Kim get that?
Yes, do you want me to read it back?
Please read it back to us.
Design criteria criteria, modern materials may only be substituted for original materials consistent with the provisions of 8A and subject to design review and design criteria in 1726.
I think you need one more word or two in there. As they are consistent, or if they are consistent, it's the way it reads.
Want to be back one more time?
You add in so far in there. That's,
Did I miss them so far?
that's great.
Okay, so original materials insofar as they are consistent with the, yes, insofar as they are consistent. Is that what you're looking for? Andy?
Yes.
Yeah. With the provisions of.
I'm going to read it back again.
Please.
Modern materials may only be substituted for original materials insofar as they are consistent with the provisions of 8A and subject to design review and design criteria in 1726.
Okay. So now we cover potential less cost, more modern, whatever it might be, but they still have to be an original one. That's what we'll get. All right. If we can, let's go back to, if we're done, I think, unless there's any other comments on permitted uses, number 2. We could go to,
I actually,
oh, go ahead. Sure.
number 2C.
Mhm.
So, I think you could just say reproduction of the existing residence, or you could just say a replica of the existing residence, but I think the two of them.
Reproduction. Yeah.
So,
What if we get, since we're using this definition of reproduction, what if we get rid of the words all the way replica?
Okay. First way that I dictionary, I thought a replica had to be smaller than the original. That's not what we get, but it turns out it's any reproduction.
Okay. Number 3, conditional uses. I think A 1 through 5 has not changed since the original. And then B now, again, talking about conditional uses only on parcels where there is a residence, additions, modifications to, or replacement of existing residence subject to 1726. And we'll get into 1726. That's kind of the meat of this whole thing.
Editorial, I think, you should have a lowercase s on subject to. That's the way we've been doing it.
Okay,
So existing residence is comma,
okay,
subject to.
okay.
Can I ask a question? Should residences be buildings?
No, I thought we got rid of the word buildings when we were trying to go through this. Oh, no, we got rid of the word structure. Excuse me. It might be, because if you have an accessory building, the same thing would apply for people that have them and want to
Correct.
continue to have them. So why don't we change that to buildings rather than residences?
I missed the discussion on building and structure last time.
Well, that's something that Brent and Kim and I, that we were saying structures before. And we decided we didn't want to say structures, because there's some actual structures out there, like one big outdoor fireplace, it's a structure. It's not a building.
Right.
So we didn't want it.
What if they want to replace it?
They probably could in kind, but they, for example, would not be able to say, I want to take that square footage.
Correct, that's a different question.
Right.
I'm just
And
saying,
that's a structure, so we're trying to separate a building.
somebody say, I want to replicate my woodshed. That's not a building, it's a structure. And he just wants to rebuild it because it's falling apart. And he wants to replicate it, so it's supposed to build on.
Well,
So everyone's saying you can't do that.
there are no wood sheds in the take the water.
Maybe that's not the point.
We've got some sheds.
I'm just thinking, yeah.
What is
Any
it?
kind of
Shed.
Any kind of shed. Yeah. Now, shed.
Well, shed will be a building.
Shed is a building,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm thinking of something that is not a building structure that he just wants to replicate because it's falling apart. And maybe it's such, it doesn't exist there, I don't know.
Would that be a repair then?
Yeah, we got pictures.
Yeah. Now, what we will get into, what we call attachments later. And I think we talked a little bit about that last time. You're talking about something standalone,
Standalone something, yeah.
There's also stone walls out there,
right?
Okay,
things like
all right.
that.
And that would be a structure.
Yeah.
A
that's a
stone
good
wall.
point.
But if they're existing, wouldn't it be a repair at that point? Like if somebody's, unless it's completely obliterated, it would fall under repairs.
Which we would accommodate.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe that covers it, I don't know, that was just a question that came up in my mind. When we, now we're back to 3B. Replacement, whether it's limited to residences, or what we're talking about is replication, or not, or it's just, this isn't replication, this is
Right, modification.
modification.
Well, we said we would replace residences with buildings. So it includes sheds and accessory buildings.
Right.
You smile,
You
Brent.
gotta pick one and then you gotta change it in 2C as well.
Yeah, right.
Either structure or building and change it there, because it wouldn't necessarily then just be residences
Okay,
for reproduction.
good point. Yeah, we were catching some of those last time, the three of us were
I
kind of
think-
running through this.
Yeah, I think the big one is when we get to the specific design criteria and the general conditions is specifying structure versus building for like a footprint modification.
Mhm.
But as long as that's clear, I don't know that unless we don't want that woodshed to be reproduced, I don't necessarily see a harm in saying structure there. As long as we clearly identify that building is what can be
Yeah.
modified
That's-
from a
But
footprint
you're right, that's a
standpoint.
separate issue.
Yeah.
We're addressing here, we're just saying replicating what's there.
Mhm.
And if it's, I kind of agree with you, we've gone from residence to building, but now you're suggesting going all the way from building to structure. And that kind of include anything.
Right.
That you want to replicate, as long as
Stone
you're
walls.
So structures destroyed by natural disaster or fires back in reproduction in this district. We would change residences to structures.
Right,
Yeah.
that's where to do it.
Little one, right?
Because this would be, then that would be a reproduction.
Mhm.
To put up the stone wall again.
Yep.
Same size, same materials. Okay, so we want to go back up to 2C, little one, and call structures.
Yep.
Okay,
And then do you do it in two?
yeah,
Yep.
Two?
rather than residences, so those will both be structures.
But we don't change it for conditional uses.
Well, that's
because-
where we started, yeah.
Are you following, Kim?
I am, I'm waiting for decisions.
Okay. Yeah, I know, before you mark it all up.
Oh, for the next section.
Well, it sounds like for the permanent uses, it makes a lot of sense here. For the reproduction, so we can call it structures, and then it includes accessory structures, residence, all the structures on the property.
And then just to follow that through back to 8,
Oh,
8A, house reproduction, would just be either reproduction or structure reproduction, not house.
okay. Well, we have to call it something besides reproduction, right? So should we call it structure reproduction?
Or just reproduction.
Well, let's look at the title there. Reproduction of existing residences in the protected waterfront.
Structures.
Okay, of existing structures. I'm fine with structures. And then it would be structure reproduction, right? Under A.
Is there a potential problem, or are we opening the door for something we don't want to allow? That's the only question in my mind. I can't think of one, but I think whether there is.
Well, John made a good point. We have a lot of masonry walls
Yeah.
down there, a lot.
Flagpoles, lamp poles, porch lights.
Well, you've got on your dock.
The gazebo.
That's a structure, and it wouldn't be a building because it's open. I don't know if it'd be called a building or
I think that'd be, well,
but still.
And that's been nearly destroyed once before.
Yeah.
Right, yep.
You know,
Right, so that's the type of thing we're referring to. So it'd be all inclusive of everything. I don't know where the structure start, 18 inches or 6 inches or whatever off the ground. It'd be everything out there. Okay, so we'll change 8A to structure reproduction. And then,
And then you have to change it several times. in
Every
order
time we have
to-
residents.
right,
Just those two places.
Yep.
yeah, and then B, we just refer to reproduction. Okay. All right. Then, going where we started, 3B1 now is going to say structures, huh? Additions, modifications to, or replacement of existing structures. Subject to. Okay. 4 has not changed. Prohibition of home occupations. 5 is the public good clause, special exception, review. That hasn't changed. And then 6, addition, modifications to, or replacement of existing residences.
Structures.
Yeah,
so,
although here we start talking about footprints right away, and then that's.
yeah, again, we kind of spun this thing on its head a little bit. I think this potentially is the first place where we go to building.
Well, yeah,
Because for all the other, we're through the conditional use and the permitted replacement or reproduction of, that's assuming it's already there.
Mhm.
So it's there, can be maintained, can be fixed, can be reproduced. The new things, like there's still a vehicle for someone to build a stone wall, subject to the current code, flagpoles, fireplaces, whatever, that's all subject to the current code. The building, I think, is the only one where we're creating a space for latitude for someone to modify what's there,
Mhm.
if I'm correct. If in John's example of the doghouse or a woodshed or something like that, is the intent to allow people to keep, maintain, potentially reproduce those, but not change those.
Right.
So then I think what additions, modifications, let's say replacement, which is different from reproduction.
Right.
That could be just for buildings.
Well, why wouldn't it just be for residences? Because if someone had an outbuilding, a shed, and it's 10 by 15, we're not going to let them put an addition. That's strictly prohibited because you can't increase the footprint. So the only latitude we're giving is to a residence. We're not giving latitude to other independent buildings on the site.
I think that's certainly the lion's share of them, but, there is South Shore Pier. Even though it's the village, that's a marina building. John, your cottages are still technically rentals.
South Shore Pier was recreated under that special exception.
Okay.
Oh, public good.
That was done, matter of fact, that was one of the reasons why that was written. That and the firehouse arena.
What would be an example of a non-resident building? Well, besides just those two?
Those couple I was naming. I think,
Okay.
John, your cottages are still
There's a couple
rentals.
boathouses.
Yep,
You know, there's the yacht club, the yacht harbor,
Anderson Store.
Anderson's, I mean,
Oh, so, okay.
there's several.
Okay.
When you go up and, you know, the beach bathrooms, that was another one that fell under that specialist.
Right. Well, we'll still have the special exception.
That was just the history.
And I guess if the village said, we'd like to add 2 more bathrooms to the marina, then that would go up to 5, and it wouldn't necessarily come under 6. I'm just wondering if there's examples on, I'll call it private property, although I know South Shore is a private property, that would
Pine
fall,
Grove,
that's non-residents.
Pine Grove's little building.
But we probably wouldn't allow an addition on private property. We wouldn't allow an addition on private property outside of a residence, because I thought all we're talking about is giving more space for residences, that building and not other buildings. And then we've got the public good clause in there. I don't know, I hate to
But would we treat
lose focus on.
yacht club or yacht harbor any different? If they had a weird bump out and they wanted to, I guess it's still
The yacht
the
club's
potentially.
property, the yacht harbor isn't.
Right, harbor,
Yacht
what we
harbor
talk
is
about.
private
That's private,
Yeah.
right, that would be private property.
But our review would be the same with both, wouldn't it?
But it does open the door to go up to 23 feet high.
But how would you call that a residence?
Well, I'm saying
Right.
if you were to change it.
Right,
Do you think it should be buildings so that we have something more
Well, or
substantive?
leave it as residences if the intent is for it to
And
be
it's
for
prohibited.
residents.
except for public good. So yeah, if the yacht harbor came to us to put a second edition on, let's just say, it wouldn't get anywhere because it's not a residence, so there'd be no provision to change that building. The yacht club, we could use public good if we wanted to let them change it. I'm a little concerned about losing focus on residences, because that's what I think where we started with giving more latitude to going up an additional level.
I can run that by our attorney too.
Okay.
To see from a use standpoint, if we can cherry pick certain uses within a district and treat them differently than
Yeah.
others.
Because none of those other uses that we're talking about, I think, involve a residence. I mean, they're clearly not residences. Why don't you
Yeah.
see what he thinks about that, but let's continue to move it on, we'll work out that. So additions, modifications to or replacement of existing residences. PW design review, okay. A, general requirements, and we've done a little tweaking here, so we should go through these again. Footprints in the protected waterfront district can be modified subject to the following provisions. A footprint, and then we can go to the definition, in the PW district cannot be increased with the following exception. Consideration given to principal building footprint increases when existing accessory buildings are to be removed. The footprint of the accessory building may be reclaimed and combined with the principal building, providing there is no increase in the width of the footprint as measured parallel to State Highway 42 of the principal building. No upper level will be allowed over the reclaimed square footage of the accessory building.
May I comment?
Yeah.
So accessory buildings can potentially be absorbed into the main building if the accessory building goes away.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm looking at my porches again, and you guys all know that. in order for me, in my building, and several other across the village in different zones that are very, very small, little compact cottages that have screened-in porches or non-screened-in porches. If you were able to use that square footage in order to accommodate the ordinances, and the accommodation I want to mention to you as a reminder is there's a 600 square foot minimum residential size in all zoning districts, including presumably PW. If you can use that and condition that space, then you've taken a building that's non-conforming and you've made it conforming to the ordinance.
Interesting approach. We're going to talk about attachments. So let's wait till we get to attachments
Okay.
to the buildings. But for now, I think this is what we had agreed on, that we would allow other structures on the accessory buildings, accessory structures to be absorbed in the main building, the resident, as long as the resident didn't increase in width, and that absorption, whatever square footage, there would not be a second level on that. So is that acceptable, Andy?
I'm gonna come back and ask, what about structures? Or if somebody had the now famous wood shed and wanted to remove it and add that square footage?
No, that's you're like asking if they were gonna take down the retaining wall or their stone wall, and, you know, they've got a couple hundred square feet of a long stone wall. I would say,
Okay, well,
I would
that's.
know.
It would have to be, have a roof and enclosed sufficient to protect whatever
So you can't do.
people, animal property is within.
We've defined it as an accessory building. It has to be, if
Right.
you're not going down to it.
Correct, building.
yeah, not a structure, accessory building.
Okay.
Are to be removed.
So not that they exist, but if there was a carport or
Mhm.
something, or 4 posts and a roof, that's a structure, not a building. So they couldn't tear that down and add a footprint to the building.
So are there many properties where this sort of lot?
Yeah, I could think of at least a couple that have home sheds, windowed sheds. And I don't know if they're, well, they would definitely qualify as a building. They're enclosed, they have a,
Hidden Springs has the cardboard. Hidden Springs has a 4-post with the roof and cardboard.
well, carports would not be in here, right? They could possibly fall under attachments, but we're gonna get to attachments. Is that independent, that carport?
Yes.
But doesn't it add a knee wall?
I think it's a
Little things, yeah.
Okay.
And that's where then all of a sudden we spring the rest.
Well, remember, what we're trying to accomplish here is to improve the views of the lake and the whole protected waterfront. That's the original intent of this thing. And that's why we said, if you are willing to get rid of a structure, building, excuse me, accessory building, and combine it with the residence, we're gonna allow you to do that. Otherwise, there's no combining. But you can't, the new residence cannot be any wider than the existing one, so it has to be deeper. So that was the intention here.
It can't go on the second floor.
Can't go on the second floor, right? We'd have to carve out that square footage. We review the plans. And then B, footprints in the protected waterfront district can be modified so long as there is no increase in width as measured parallel to residence or accessory buildings and no increase in footprint. Let's see. Increase in width and no increase in footprint.
Because we were saying up above that you can
I'm not sure that no increase in footprint makes sense.
You just can't, well, maybe that's unnecessary. We're talking about the existing footprints. And you can rearrange them.
I don't think we need that.
Yeah, I think that last thing, does that add anything and no increase in the footprint?
I think that should maybe be a standalone 2 and make 2, 3. It's what I is doing, one. Footprints can be modified, subject, well, it is modified.
Shape.
Because A is talking about a footprint increase.
Right.
B is talking about a footprint alteration.
Okay,
Both
can
of
be
which fall under footprint modification. So A is the singular opportunity to increase a footprint when you're reclaiming square footage from another building. And little b is an allowance to modify the footprint, which is known as increased footprint, just a reorganization.
Yeah, that does make sense, because now we're dealing with a residence that's, let's say, gonna be replaced.
Yeah.
So you got a footprint of 20 by 30, 20 being parallel to the Highway 42. They could make it 15 feet, but they can't make it 25. So that's a restriction. It can't be wider, but they can modify the footprint if they want to make it narrower.
Is it should it be no increase to the footprint instead of in the footprint
No increase of the footprint. Huh?
or of the footprint?
Well, we're talking about
Or is it
the
in?
other footprint size.
You could say no increase in the total footprint. Just to get clear. And I don't know if you already said this, but theoretically, reverse B and A.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was gonna say, B is probably the most common, because most homes don't have an accessory building. So maybe it makes sense for that to be first up.
Yeah, that's good.
Correct.
I'm still, okay, what do we decide to do with the increase, no increase?
In total footprint. Yeah, because remember, that's gonna be now A, so there wouldn't have been, this would be the first discussion of footprints.
With, is comma with no increase? What the
No increase in dimension. And, no, because we're saying no increase in width and no increase in total. So they can make it narrower and longer, or deeper.
But for example, if it was 1,500 square feet, they could rearrange it, but it still can't be above 1,500 square feet.
Correct, correct. Yeah, that goes back to the original.
Yeah, my concern, I think the meaning is clear. I'm struggling with the grammar.
Okay.
The and strikes me, I don't know what the and is parallel to.
No increase.
No increase in the width and no increase in the footprint.
Right.
Okay, all right.
Those are two things they have to work with.
Right. All right.
All right, then floodplain is the same, little two. And then B, design criteria. Okay, a lot of this is tweaked since the last time we were here, so. Little I, or 1. The style of the project within the district shall meet the design criteria in 1726 Historic District, and generally, at a maximum, I remember that, have the design characteristics of a single story or 1 1/2 story house. And maybe if we can live with that, let's go back to 1709 and see if this makes sense. We've gone around on this definition, and as I've said a number of times, I think one of my regrets in the original revised for the protected waterfront is we never said out loud that we're looking for a 1 1/2 story house. We kind of danced around with roof lines and everything. So the 1 1/2 story house on the last page, the last page on the definition, 1709. You see that? Oh, yeah. If you go, oh, just to what, this right here. I think the last page, she put just the definitions that dealt.
Here, Rick, I got it here.
Yeah, here.
And it's up there.
Oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Here it is. Okay. 1.5 story house. A 1.5 story house has a full first floor with full height interior walls, nominally 8 feet high, and an upper level that has less full height floor area than the first floor. The reason, at first I said less square footage, but it's possible it has the same square footage. If you go all the way back to the edge of where the roof truss comes to meet the floor. So we instead put less full height floor area. Because normally there'd be a knee wall and something. We had that in there before and decided to take the knee wall out. And
So if I have a 1,200 square foot first floor, I can fill in 1,199 square foot second floor.
Yep.
As long as the edge is a little less than 8 feet. So,
Assuming you meet roof pitch and
Yeah.
building heights and.
right. Is that what we mean by 1 inch?
as long as the edge is less than 8 feet.
Well, you gotta meet two criteria. It's gotta be less. So, okay, it could be 1 square foot less.
Oh, does it say less?
Yes,
Yes.
less full
It
height,
says less full height. Full height,
more area.
Less full height, right.
floor
So
area.
I have at least one wall. I guess my point is, this still allows for darn near a full second story, if you want to press it to the max.
With a minimum 612 roof
Well,
line.
I can't speak to how the roof pitch is gonna make this work. I'm just thinking of a very creative architect pushing this to the max. And I don't have a good solution, but using words like less full height area leaves a huge margin for flexibility.
Mhm.
But I don't think within the definition of a 1.5 story building is where you would make those limitations. This is just creating the definition of a
Okay,
1.5 story building.
okay.
That wouldn't have any bearing on if we're limiting square footage of a second floor.
Are we talking about square footage that is contained within the roof line? Is that what we're talking about with a 1.5 story house? Or, and also maybe with a knee wall? I mean, what distinguishes that from a 2-story house? It's the knee wall, isn't it?
Well, it's having less full height floor area. So we had knee wall in at one time, but then some people use a 4-foot knee wall, some people use a 6-foot knee wall. So we didn't want to say it has less area because in absolute floor area could have the exact same floor area as the first floor. It's just a lot of it would be unusable, 612 rough. And the maximum of 23 feet to the roof line. I think where we got it last time is the 312 lines, roof lines. Yeah, but I struggle with this, and I keep putting it back in there because I wished it was there the first time. That we're not talking about 2-story, but maybe we had more on this definition before, we kind of cut it out. Do you have that original, Kim? Why don't you read that?
A 1.5 story house has a full first floor, full height interior walls, normally 8 to 10 feet high, and an upper level that has less floor area than the first floor. The upper level has deeply pitched roofs with gables and dormers, normally with windows. The upper level typically has sloped ceilings with knee walls, normally 5 to 7 feet high, that define the floor area. These features reduce the floor area on the upper level. And all that stuff.
And I can tell you the assessor has a definition of knee walls and 1.5 story houses.
Okay.
At least I remember that from Mike Walker and subsequently the newer systems.
We can take a look at that.
I have a question. We spent all the time talking about reproduction, and that was always my impression that you had the house and you had to reproduce it. But now we're letting one-story houses become 1.5-story houses. So you're not reproducing it.
No, this is something we did a year and a half ago.
Right. But I'm just saying, there's so much, it's like a contradiction to me, because like the house we just approved is in no shape or form a reproduction of what is there now.
Correct.
So the reproduction is kind of a joke.
No, I'll tell you why it's not. What we want to do is to encourage people to use what's there. And let's say we have a house, I think it's the McNeil's house. And let's say internally, the whole house rots out. And there's damage, whatever, water damage. And they come to us and they say, I want to rebuild the house, but I can't meet your, the height limitations, various things that we're limiting here, if they were just to rip it down. And they say, I'd like to reproduce it. And we would say, okay, we would allow you to reproduce it. Now, that might be considered a natural disaster, but somebody could come to us to reproduce something just to modernize the materials and
Then
everything
they're not
else.
bound by style or size.
Yes, in reproduction, you got to reproduce. But no, on this new one, and this is what we've been living with, the house that you're talking about, that's why we tried to tighten up. We let everybody go up to 23 feet. The style is the historic district ordinance. That's the style. That's what we're going to rely on for style.
So the design match has to be the district, not the house.
I missed that.
Yeah.
The design, the historic district, that deals with the design.
Okay, which actually is from many different time periods. It wasn't all built in one.
Right.
So there is some variance, but, what you're talking about with the porches and, that's the biggest stand that's going on here that we're.
Yeah, we're going to get to attachments where we address porches, decks, and all that stuff. Do we like the original definition better, or should we throw out the 1.5-story house and just forget it?
I kind of like the original definition better.
I agree.
It just gives more detail and explanation about what you're looking at and what is the less full height.
Yes,
That's
I think
in my opinion.
more clearly.
Why don't we go back to that and look up, see if we can find what John's referring to? Because I have Googled 1.5-story houses and you get all different
I have 2 parts of my house that are story and a half.
Here you go.
Yes, I do. And they're in my kids' upstairs bedrooms, which nobody resides in anymore, but I've got 3.5-foot knee walls up there.
Mhm.
It's the same footprint as the house.
Right.
But there's a lot less living space up there.
Right. Yeah, that's what we're getting into without saying the second floor can only be so many square foot or such a percentage. The roof line's going to dictate it and the knee walls.
It's kind of like a chalet style home where you got
Exactly.
one full story and then a 12 pitch roof.
Yeah.
Similar.
Yes. Why don't we go back to, let's put the original definition and we'll see what if the assessor has a better one for us here. That might make more sense. Okay. Then let's go back to design criteria B, number 2. Visual impact from the street is to be minimized on all projects occurring in the protected waterfront district. The width of any individual structure is measured parallel to State Highway 42 cannot be increased. When the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced, a landscape plan is required. The landscape plan should not reduce the water view between the buildings. So this is what we struggle with a couple of homes, making sure we still have the water view. And this is only if the landscaping plan, if there's a landscaping plan, if they keep what they have out there, No plans required, and we're not dealing right now with any lots that don't have structures on them right now. This is just in the case where there's gonna be a new residence and the landscape's gonna be changed.
I like, I would, in that last sentence, take out the word, so it just says should not reduce the water between buildings.
Okay.
So that's what I said, which buildings we're talking about.
Brett, you had a comment?
Yeah, say, the more times you read it, little things.
I know.
Never bothered me before. I would just say from the landscaping side,
Mhm.
I'd rather keep it to talk about building. Landscaping to me is kind of a sub piece. So I think maybe to consider putting that towards the bottom of the design criteria rather than talk about building, then talk about landscaping, then talk about building again.
Mhm.
I like that, Frank. I thought too, that there's overlap here
Yeah.
between what we then say at the end about the permit application, number 10B,
Yeah,
which is kind of redundant.
Also create a new sub paragraph.
I think what you could do, yeah, in B2 is take out the landscaping discussion and make that another sub-point,
okay.
a separate
Yeah.
sub-point.
This is only for new projects? New buildings?
The intent of that part now is just for if you have a building modification, reproduction type project that falls under this, then we look at that landscape.
Right.
Something new that would necessitate new landscape.
Right. When the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced. So you're suggesting take those two sentences, and maybe moving them to what is now behind 6?
I don't know, I'm just.
Yeah.
I think I had the same concern Brent did,
Mm-hmm.
that it's sort of a second issue here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It could be its own issue and sort of hierarchy of importance.
It came together because of you. That's where it'd been talked about.
Yes, it's in there because it's the heading there is visual impact,
Right.
the first
Yeah,
thought.
okay, all right.
But
I'm fine with having it as a separate. But should we move it all the way back? In a way, it doesn't matter. They're not done by order of importance.
Well, again, what do you want it to apply to?
Just to
The view.
modified buildings.
Just to.
Yeah.
Just to parent 6. Additions, modification to or replacement of.
Right. Right. Otherwise, we agreed previously that we're not going to dive into landscaping plans at this point in time. Standalone. It still is visual impact,
Yeah, I see that.
because the second sentence, the landscape plan should not reduce the water view between buildings.
Well, here's another suggestion then. Just reference, all right, when the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced, comma, it should not reduce the water view between the buildings. C10B in parentheses.
Okay.
And
I
10B
like that.
then talks about the requirement of a landscape plan under permit application requirements. Does that make sense?
I think it makes a lot of sense.
Again, it seems as though the committee's favorable to, there's certainly private property concerns here. When these folks are paying property taxes, and yet now you're restricting, or you're allowing the public to go through their yard, potentially, onto their patio, onto their picnic area.
That's always been the intent of this ordinance.
Yeah, but that, I would argue that that intent has always been arguable.
Okay.
That my predecessor, Mr. Burton, basically wrote that whole thing. And was able to convince enough people that it was a good thing that, so I'm not so sure that all the stakeholders down here would agree with, codifying the ability of the public to look through their properties, as a regular thing. It just seems a little, it sounds a little, it would be, you guys live up on the bluff, if you're on a private public road, would the village do that, to your homes, where the public can look through, see, it's an interesting argument. And you've only got 21 properties down here that fall under that. So it really boils down to, I've got on my property, I've got 100 feet of it. And it's never going to be our intention to do anything, even though I do have a relationship with the hotel. I'm still allowed to do things, but we're never going to close that up. I know Paul Rocco was never going to close it up. But I can't speak for everybody.
And you don't want a bunch of homeowners closing everything up for a distance. I don't know.
I look at Gracie's, down by your neighborhood down there, all those homes, south of the creek are privately owned, and they're eventually going to change hands.
Sure.
And then what?
And so you don't want people, let's say, across from our house, planting big trees, big cedar trees or something.
Yeah.
No.
I agree.
And that's,
But between two homes on the beach, when they have such little space to use anyhow.
I hear what you're saying, John. I think part of the whole landscaping came from empty lots. And we're not going to tackle that today, but that's worth the discussion in the future. That's where the real shoreline views are available. The long stretches of lots that are empty. But to keep this moving along, see where. So we agreed to read that sentence again. Who came up with?
I was just taking out the reference to the landscape plan.
Right.
And saying, because I can see that this is talking about visual impact.
Right.
First point, I think it's a good one. So we go on, when the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced, it should not reduce the water view between the buildings. That's our concern.
Right.
That the landscaping doesn't make it worse, so to speak.
Right.
And then just put parentheses, C10B.
Okay.
Or you could even say in such cases, a landscape plan is required, C10B. But my point is sort of pull out the discussion of the landscape plan because we talk about it in 10B.
Let's go back to 10B then now.
Yeah, okay, that's good too.
Because that's the finding here. 10B is 10 is permanent application. B is a landscape plan is also required when the existing landscape is to be modified or replaced. The landscape plan should not reduce the water view between the buildings. The plan should show all new plantings along with all proposed hardscape and impervious surface. Samples of all hardscape are required showing material and color. This is where we had a few problems with the two houses that we've dealt with, is the landscape plan or the hardscape plan. And in fact, they were built way beyond the original plan and had to be removed. So I think we all agreed that we're especially interested in hardscape and impervious area, or even if it's a non-impervious area, just the amount of hardscape out there and help with the materials.
Will there be, I'm not trying to add more to this, and I'm not trying to add more restriction, but the permeable pavers are becoming more and more of a commonplace, which is great. It's a great solution for people to have an outdoor area when they're limited by impervious surface. But is there a world in which every single square foot between the back door to the water will would allow someone to put permeable pavers?
Well, it would,
So that's no longer impervious surface.
So this, I'm just saying, it's, what started off as someone just trying to get a 10 by 10 is slowly growing, and you're seeing more and more of it. They're becoming obviously cheaper, more, you know,
So that would,
more companies are making them.
that changes the percentage of the impervious surface. by
Right.
doing that?
Well, as it is now, we're counted at zero.
right.
If they can provide the documentation that it's permeable, we're not counting it as anything.
Right.
Now, years ago, it used to be, you know, you see them at, I think Marge Ganell's place, Chuck Pearson's property has them, Foundation has, the Ridges in Bailey's Harbor, like the lattice style, the crosshatch bricks, or, you know,
But those are done in lieu of a
Type.
driveway, aren't they?
Yep, and that these in places are too.
Yeah.
But what used to be is like you got a 50% break on that.
Oh,
Now, again, that's when they were just pure concrete and that, but a lot of it is covered that way, where you give a percentage of relief for permeable. We're just counting it as nothing.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not necessarily, if it's a concern, it probably should be dealt with, because I don't think we want to, I'll step back. I don't want to slow the process down. We've got a timeline. We've got to get this to the board. So part of me says, don't even worry about it now, but keep it on the back burner. But with that said, how's it going to look if you pass a new ordinance and then 6 months from now, oh, and by the way, we also made a change to permeable pavers. You don't want that perception either. So again, maybe a side piece just to think about if it's worth exploring for next meeting, but.
well, there are permeable pavers that are available now that when planted look almost like grass. And that's why they substitute for driveways, because you could drive or walk over them.
But there are also ones that look like a stone patio.
I know, that's what you're concerned, and I agree.
Yeah.
Then it's an aesthetic issue. It looks like I paved my whole yard.
The huge battle started right here with this building, right there. Back in the late 90s, when the owner of that building wanted to have more parking and more area, and came up with the concrete, using concrete cement blocks or some variation of that.
Mhm.
And the village clearly had no idea how to deal with that one. So they just considered it all impervious surface.
All impervious?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then it's kind of lightened up over the years with new products and things. So that's where the history started.
I mean, we could always have a call out impervious that you can use it for driveways or parking. In lieu of meeting the impervious percentage. But yeah, well, that's something to think about.
Yeah, because there is, I think it was stolen work added or recommended consideration given for 10% additional lot coverage to provide off-street parking. Just, this was before our highway project. We gained a little more space with that, but maybe that's the carve out, and the easy way is, you know, no restrictions for, you know, permeable surfaces if it's to facilitate, you know, driveways, parking areas.
Right.
But a cap of some number, that's for other.
Would we do that here, though? Would we do that in the definitions applicable to the
Where
entire
would we
zoning
put it?
ordinance? I'm just, I don't know if that,
Well, and there's that too. Again, you want to be fair across the board, but, you know, I think.
Yeah.
From an impervious standpoint, it's different if you're dealing with a 15,000 square foot lot versus a acre and a half lot out on Town Line Road.
I haven't really thought about that.
I hadn't either. Now I went there.
Well, we can give a little, because you could, if you have a driveway, if you have a garage, you have a driveway, you could build that impervious. And that would give you an opportunity to make a larger, I mean, you could build that pervious, so you could have a larger impervious patio. So given that latitude for parking and driveway, maybe we just say, forget about the pervious and impervious. The maximum amount, well, the impervious surface is the maximum amount of patio. And there is no impervious substitution patios, something like that, and that would define it. If we feel, yeah, because you can't, and then you start dictating, okay, what is the pervious material you want them to use? Because some looks very attractive. I mean, grass grows in there and it almost, when you look across it, looks like a wall, except it's solid. I could see people maybe wanting to do that. So it never gets muddy. I don't know. Well, let's give that some thought. I mean,
Yeah.
An option would be just the patio, regardless of materials, is considered impervious.
Think on it.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's go back there then. The rest of the definition we're okay with. Because what we're getting at really here is a big part of this was hardship. The patio itself, you know, how big it was, what the materials were. Okay. Okay, let's go back to then.
Well,
Little 3 now. From the view of any side of the residence, the number and varying pitches of the roof lines should be minimized. The overall guiding principle of design is simplicity and avoidance of all. This came from one of the projects where one of the views, it had a very, very complicated roof line. So what we're trying to do is give us at least the ability to look at the roof lines on all 4 sides, not just the street side and the bay side, with trying to keep things simple.
It says it all.
Okay. And then little 4, any existing house attachment, and we'll go back to the definition, may be replaced on a project within this district, assuming the size is no more than the existing house attachment, and the attachment is a 1-for-1 replacement. For example, a porch being replaced by a porch, but not a screen porch or window porch. And let's go back to 1709 definitions. And we start with house attachment. A house attachment is not part of the conditioned living interior space, but is attached to the house. Examples are decks, porches, window porches, and screen porches. And then we also talk here, decks, okay, and then we also have a definition of a deck. A deck on a house, flat outdoor surface typically made of wood or composite materials that is elevated from the ground and often connected to the main building. So this is where we're trying to get at, as opposed to independent buildings and structures attaching to the house. And we're trying to define, because we have houses that are porches with a roof, a screened-in porch, a windowed-in porch, and then we had the whole discussion where, as we did on Holtz's house, I believe, because it was windowed in, was it part of the original square footage of the footprint? Conditioned space. And that's a tough one, no matter what we do this with that. And it's, as long as we're there, let's just jump onto the footprint for a minute, because this all ties together under definition. The footprint is defined as the dimensions of a single horizontal plane bounded by the exterior walls of a building, expressed in square foot. That was the original definition.
You mean the dimensions or the area?
Well,
I mean, the dimensions doesn't seem.
right, that wouldn't be in square feet.
we're talking about the area.
conditioned space of the area.
The dimensions of a single horizontal.
I'm just suggesting
Cubic
that the
space.
word dimensions should be replaced by the
The
word
area.
area. What's the area of,
Bounded, you're right, if it's gonna be bounded. The area. Yep, of a single horizontal plane bounded by the exterior walls of the building expressed in square feet. This is the finished space within the house with walls, floors, and ceilings of materials generally accepted for interior construction, with the ceiling height of at least 7 feet, and that comes from another, one of our other definitions, so that's already a stated definition. And then this next thing was added. This is a conditioned space where temperature and humidity are controlled throughout the space. And this one is a tough one, because there could be cottages that are not conditioned at all. You know, they have a fireplace, and that's it. So,
And there lies, you know, our issue, and I can probably cite you at least a dozen, if not 20 cottages that are like that throughout the village, where we have a roof over a porch. And these cottages don't meet, even though they're used as residences, they don't come anywhere near the size of the minimum requirement of 600 square feet.
well, that requirement was after those houses were built, John.
Well, I realize that, but in order.
It's all non-conforming.
I understand that point. But if somebody wants to become conforming, there potentially could be a carve out or a special exception or conditional use to allow that. Otherwise, the place will never be conforming, ever.
Well,
And
those places will never be conforming from a lot set, from a dimensional setback.
well, not in my case.
Well, maybe not yours, but many of them out there will never have a conforming side lot setback.
Well, possibly. I can't specifically cite anyone in that situation. All I know is that in order for us to create a year-round cottage or something like that, we would have to incorporate, as I presented 2.5 years ago, closing that porch in and not adding on another porch and just having a front yard like several of my neighbors.
One of the things that we were challenged with Cultra, if you remember, is Cultra had a windowed-in porch. And to me, it was not clear if that was part of the original or not. It was on sonotubes, but it had been there a long time. But it had you could look at the exterior walls. Anyway, the point being is when they first came to us with their proposal, the windowed-in porch was many, many, many times as big as the old one. So the idea here is to control the size. In other words, you can replace with what you got. But if you have nothing on the house right now, if it's just a house and you have a deck, you can put a deck on it again, but you can't put a porch. You can't put a roof on a porch. And if
The
you
new
have,
construction is the issue.
pardon me,
The new construction is the issue.
that's what we're talking about, right?
Right.
Right.
And it's not a matter of adding, and it's pretty clear to me the intent is that that is going to be a year-round room within a few years. You know, and it should have affected the footprint.
Well, they eventually met ours. They did not, oh, I see what you're saying. Right, but they'll, I know.
Screen porch, it's not considered.
Right, right.
So that's.
But it's, well,
But they're-
open to suggestions, but how do you control that when they have a windowed-in enclosed porch right now? It becomes a tough argument, is that,
Because now it's slabbed as part of the big roof line and it has knee walls that accommodate. the roof.
it had any walls before. Yeah, I know. That's gonna be a tough one.
And that's going to happen more and more. It's a way of borrowing.
Well, we only have so many windowed porches. If you kind of look at the protected waterfront. Well,
Potentially space. And that's why I figured that should have been considered in the
Right.
original square footage, or conditioned space. even though they're not putting windows in now. They have windows and they will have windows.
Yeah. I don't disagree with what you're saying. I'm not quite sure how to control it. That's a challenge. It's how to control that.
I mean, certainly if it's enclosed with walls or windows, it's more substantial than if it's just screens.
Mhm.
But is our concern look or use? I mean, does it matter from our standpoint if,
Doesn't mean it will go massive.
Well, right,
but
that was the
that's a
idea.
roof line thing. That's different. That's going up.
This last sentence requires HVAC to be part of a footprint. Right, I mean, that's, why is that necessarily, someone has walls, windows, completely enclosed, on a slab, under a roof, all of that, they don't have central heating, air conditioning, or vents, why is that part of this necessarily conditioned?
I was gonna suggest we strike that conditioned space.
Yeah.
Because an original cabin wouldn't be conditioned at all.
Right.
I mean, we were throwing around that term conditioned space, but we realized that we didn't mean anything. We didn't have a definition of conditioned space. So the attempt there was to make a definition, but I don't think it makes sense. Because we can't have cottages that there's no conditioning in that space. It's you know. So if, I was gonna suggest we strike that. This is a conditioned space when temperature and humidity are controlled throughout. If everybody's in agreement on that.
Yes, sure.
But,
Then under house attachment, which follows.
yeah,
You say it's not part of conditioned
Yeah,
space.
okay. So I think what we have to do there is, let's see, do we call, we can just use the, not part of the living, not part of the interior
I
space?
don't have a problem maintaining condition where you're defining what an attachment is. I understand the desire to change the requirement, but
Mhm. Well, what do you think what does condition mean?
well,
on
you
your
have a
mind?
definition of that. It could be a place for temperature and humidity, or where there's HVAC. It's sufficient but not necessary to create footprint. But it is.
But it doesn't foundation.
Or it's enough to define something as an attachment as opposed to.
Does a space heater condition something?
It also said, I mean, if the definition is for year-round comfort, what if it's just a seasonal?
That's the thing, a lot of those cottages are seasonal cottages. There's, you wouldn't consider it a hayvac system. It wouldn't be a central station, that's why.
Well, I mean, I don't care. I mean, take out condition in both places. If people think that helps. You still have a question about what is living interior space.
Yeah, well, I was going back to I was looking at the footprint definition and seeing what we could pull out of that. We say this is the finished space within the house with walls, floors, and ceilings of materials generally accepted for interior construction. That to me makes a lot of sense when I was looking at the two houses that we're looking at. Because when you start to look in, it's clear what's an exterior wall is an interior wall. So maybe we should just say that is not part of the finished space. And then the finished space is defined above under footprint.
Finished. Oh, finished.
Finished interior space, if that better defines it.
John, are your cottages insulated?
Somewhat. I mean, are you asking whether or not they can be winterized? Is that a better question? I don't know. Anything can be winterized if you want to toss enough money at it. My problem probably is more the plumbing, but it could be done. And I mentioned to Brent in the conversation, we had an architect come up a couple weeks ago and look at the whole place. He says, well, you know, basically that, you can do anything if you want to throw enough money in it. But, you know, our question is the porch, because we're trying to conform to two things, making it a residence in a residential zone. And meeting we would come up to about 800 square feet, which would be 200 over the minimum that the village requires for that designation.
Well, you know, to that question, John, I think it goes to whether our goal is to bring non-conforming structures into conforming structures, make them conforming, or not change the way things look.
Not sure.
I mean,
I think you brought 2 points there. Changing the way things look on the water side would not change anything from the public side. So by windowing in a porch or screening in a porch or something similar, making it a space that's livable instead of not livable. I think you have to wrestle with the idea of
right.
what's best for the property owner versus somebody who can see it from half a mile out.
Going back to culture, I think one of the things that I remember comments being made out when they put on a big window porch was bulk. Was really the bulk of just the whole look of the house. And obviously that's huge. Yeah. They
Now, that application, that was all, still is unconditioned space in that new home.
Yeah, but they downsized it a lot. But yes, it is. It is.
And so that's what it should stay.
Yeah, it's the way it should stay.
We're not building new, we're just going to use what we got.
Yeah.
And I remember that discussion about beers from your last regular plan meeting.
Mhm.
Was he wanted to convert, I think, a screen porch or something into livable space.
Yep.
I don't know, I never saw the plan, so I don't know if he wanted to actually add another porch. But he wanted to incorporate and make his indoor.
He just wanted to enclose his
Correct.
screen porch into interior space.
Yeah, and that's exactly what our potential goal is.
Right.
And that's what I presented 2.5 years ago.
But it just clarification, John, he had knee walls and a screen porch in that one.
I have knee walls without the screen. Without the screen.
Without the screens, okay. All right, going back to house attachments.
Or rate.
The house attachment is not part of, can we go finished interior space? And that should tie to the definition of footprint. Finished interior space. All right.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's screen porches out there that are nicer than a lot of people's homes.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I like finished.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Even do definition.
Well, the definition above is in footprint. This is the finished space within the house with walls, floors, and ceilings of material generally accepted for interior construction. And I can't remember where I pulled that from. That's in another definition under our definitions. And I don't remember where that was. I have to find it again. With a ceiling height of at least 7 feet.
I mean, by the time you add windows, so like the windowed porch, at that point, you could have interior, electrical outlets, you could have carpeting in there. So how is that not finished?
Sleeping porch, could be a sleeping porch.
I know. Does it come back to the definition of a wall?
Well, I think what we're trying to get to here, to go back to the original problem we're trying to solve, is if you have a deck or a porch, or a screen porch, or a window porch, you can replace it with the same, but no additional size. That's what we're trying to get. So,
And not turn it into conditioned space.
well, no, we were basically trying to tackle, if you have, well, let's say like the Plum Cottage, I don't believe has any attachment on it.
Deck? I'm not sure if it has a deck.
Oh, forget decks, but,
Forget decks, no porch.
Yeah, no porches. That you can't come there and they say, hey, we're gonna put it on, I don't care if it's a porch, a screening porch, or a window porch. If all he has is a deck, can't put another thing, another attachment on there. If you have an attachment, you could put an attachment on your new house. If you're gonna knock it down, you can put an attachment on your new house, but the same attachment.
So you're saying a deck has got to stay a deck?
Right.
I didn't hear that.
A deck has to stay a deck.
Deck has to stay a deck.
Yeah, if you got a deck, you can have a deck on your new house.
But can a porch be enclosed?
No. A porch is by definition a roof. That's the definition of a porch. And then you have a screen porch, and then you have a window.
And you're saying that that's totally off the table.
I would say under the definition.
Under that definition,
Right.
can there be, and I had said this 45 minutes ago, can there be a carve out for a conditional or special exception to that? Under any, so just to give some kind of vehicle to, or method in order to bring a reasonable request to, besides the Board of Appeals, because that's never a sure bet. Nothing's a sure bet around here, but
Well, this whole thing,
what I'm trying to figure out here, Ken, is what's the purpose? I have basically the only property on the entire beach that falls under that category, where I can't enclose something that's large enough and it makes sense to enclose in order to fulfill other parts of the ordinance. I can't do it by that definition.
correct.
I can understand why somebody could have a deck, and I don't have a problem with smaller older homes. My problem is with the big homes. Why couldn't someone add a deck that, like, a Plum Cottage truck could add? It doesn't make sense.
No, you couldn't under this. So that's what we're talking about right now. What do we want to control? Because going back to Cultra, they had a window porch. And what came back in their proposal was a huge window porch because we had nothing that said, once they kind of agreed, it's not part of the condition space, well, we're just gonna build a real big one. And we really had nothing in the ordinance to control that.
But I think you're penalizing the existing smaller places, trying to control the new ones. And he had said, it was on wooden stilts that were sinking, and then all of a sudden it was to a concrete slab, and then,
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. I mean, if there's no reason to control decks, we don't have to control decks. I mean, decks are a totally different attachment, you hardly view them. Now, you could have a second floor deck, if you will. We have a couple of those out there. That we might be more interested in from a bulk and appearance standpoint than first floor grade deck. Maybe that shouldn't be in there. Maybe a deck is, we can still define a deck, but if you want to put a deck on your house, it's fine.
Depending on height, the deck might need a guardrail. So from a visual standpoint.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have to be solid. It's still design review, but as far as that visual.
It would need a guardrail on it.
Yeah.
If it's
It's
12 feet off the ground.
has to be 18 inches, maybe something like that.
And is a deck impervious?
Deck would be impervious.
I have a question about the screen porch and the porch.
Mhm.
If it's part of the footprint that we see,
Mhm.
if it's whatever, if it's part of a footprint that you see from the top,
Okay.
why do we care what's in the interior?
Yeah.
I'm just asking, why do we care if it stays the same or if it becomes the kitchen?
Well, or if it's on a slab and there's a roof covering it, and say like in John's case, a knee wall, do we care that a screen is then put there? I mean, if it's not conditioned, if it's not living space. See what I'm saying?
Well, here's was my concern.
That's,
If we look at it and say it's part of the living space, then do we want to allow them also to say, but by the way, I want all that as my new footprint, but I want to put a screen and porch in addition to that?
No,
That's what
That's
we're
not
trying
what
to
he's-
get here.
and that's what I would say, no,
Uh-huh.
because that's addition. That's an addition to the footprint.
Okay.
That's how I view it.
So, but then we have to go back to footprint.
You'd have to rewrite all that.
and additionally, you can use, your ordinance does allow you to take an older garage or a shed or something and use that as footprint, as long as it doesn't widen the house. You talked about that. in the house.
Right, but that's a building.
But
That would be a
it's the
building.
same- It's the same premise though. It's
No.
the same premise. You're not allowing something that's already under a roof and covering ground. Like Monique said, why are you?
Well,
And I'm asking a question.
Yeah.
I'm not,
No,
I don't
I-
necessarily have an opinion at this
What's a
point.
good question?
Now's the time to take a deep dive,
Mhm.
certainly. Well,
I'll just, one of the things we have to consider is the bulk issue. If we take all the houses out there, and there's quite a few with porches, and just look at it from the sky, and we allow fill and all that stuff, that's a whole different look than a porch.
and again, but just for conversation's sake, again, not that I see any opinion here. From a bulk standpoint, John, based on the current code or as drafted right now,
Mhm.
couldn't enclose that porch.
Right.
But he could go up to 23 feet high on that same footprint
On which footprint?
for each of those individual buildings.
Existing
He could go straight up to 23 feet high with a 612
In-
roof pitch.
Closed buildings, right? We're not talking
Yep,
about
not
porch.
the porch.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So which one has
More bulk.
more impact to both?
Mhm.
Again, you can't cherry pick one or
Yeah.
two. It has to apply across the board.
But there's so few properties that we all know what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So,
Like, and I see a difference between a deck and a porch, but I guess that some decks do have a roof over them. So then is there a difference between that and a screened-in porch? I know,
and
it's,
it wouldn't be going wider, it's going deeper, which
Right.
it appears that we have prioritized in the ordinance so far,
Mhm.
that we're okay with that. And if there were other things, of less dense use, of not adding on something in front of it, so forth. I mean, that seems like these would all be questions within a conditional use permit application that we would consider. And maybe we should consider.
Well, as long as John is sitting here, let's speculate on this. What if we considered your two porches enclosed space? And then we let you go up to 23 feet.
That's why
I mean, we'd end up with
That's
a
a
pretty good
question.
sized structure.
That's a good question. The thing that plays about it is, if you write it correctly, if you author it correctly, you can turn that enclosed, or take it an unenclosed porch, with a railing and so on, where you've already got a boundary, and the boundary was set by the Board of Appeals, by the way, back in 1994. And saying that we couldn't go out any further. Okay, so that's how the boundary of what it is was set back then. That said, if you just simply, something, I kind of lost my thought here, because I went off about the
Okay.
Board of Appeals. What was say the quote?
What I would struggle with it, as long as we're talking about your property, let's talk about it. If we said, okay, that is all enclosed interior space,
Yes,
porch and everything. So now I don't know what that adds, 50, 75% to the space of the original cabins. The porch is large. And then we allow you to go up to 23 feet in addition to that.
Yeah.
You'd end up with a structure probably 3 times.
well, that is why I had mentioned earlier that if you if you offered something that if you want to enclose a porch and make it conditioned space, you make it a conditional use permit. And then you could place those conditions that you can't go up, you can't do this, you can't do that.
I see what you're saying.
You know, if there's the right methods written into the code, again, you have all the tools you need to put those conditions on there. And presently, I know that we would not be presenting anything closer. Plus, I believe Brett said that we would run into impervious surface problems with that property right away. There's other controls that would automatically kick in.
Yes, you'd not be able to add a deck or anything in front of whatever you were putting walls up or windows or something like that.
Nothing over 6 inches high.
But then as soon as you have that, how do we deal with the roof lines? We've got a minimum roof line.
But
Although
it
we're
changes.
gonna make an exception.
Is the porch covered by a roof? If you look straight up on the edge of the porch, is there
Yes.
a roof over it? So you're
Yeah.
not changing the roof line.
Nothing above, and I'm speaking of changes. It's all below the roof line existing as is now. You walk out the door, look at it, you'll see exactly what it is. But, and that's how we attain the 800 square foot residential. And then it's forever. done.
Well, until the next guy comes in when we're all gone and say, hey, I got this house with
Well, but then you've
five,
got,
you know,
you've got your ordinances in place.
well, then the next conditional use will be to go up to 23 feet. You know, one of the things we're
Yeah,
trying
it's
to,
not gonna happen.
well,
It's just not gonna happen. Not as long as my family loves it. It's gonna be a while. It'll likely outlast all of us.
Going back to the
Until
real
you
estate
sell.
one, when you look down, it doesn't matter what's there, but that's my point, that should be considered part of the footprint, and they can do whatever they want.
So you're saying covered by a roof. So you're looking at a roof line that
Yes.
covers,
Yeah.
yes.
So they wanted to gain more space, more footprint, so they said it was not, and that's what I'm trying to prevent, the adding of the footprint, because of the mass in the area, with no water. And from the beaches.
well, I guess we have to give a little more thought into, do we want to make some kind of conditional use? You know, we started this whole thing with trying to give leeway, and it seems like we're given more and more leeway. And I'm concerned about that, you know, of how, you know, I think there's a different bulk look to a deck, a porch, a screened-in porch, an enclosed porch in the house. And that's something we had a lot of discussions with on culture, with the ball.
With all respect, you also said that you are also encouraging people to keep what they have.
Correct.
And in order to do that, you gotta make some concessions as well. I believe, and they don't have to be major concessions, just a few of them that actually encourage people to keep what they got.
Well,
So,
that's what we're trying to do.
well.
If you got a deck-
Go back to your word.
No, if you got a deck, you can keep a deck. If you got a porch, you can keep a porch. If it's screened in, you can keep screens. If it's windowed, you can window it.
Nothing says if you've got a deck, you can't screen it in.
Yeah,
What you're saying in the draft is, if it's a one-to-one, then you get to do it. That doesn't mean you can't change from a porch to a screen porch, or a screen porch to a rear porch, whatever. I mean, it's that falls with the conditional use already. That is an additional modification of the residence to me. So in other words, if it's one-to-one, you get to do it. That doesn't mean if it's not a one-to-one, you can't do it.
Right, you're talking about it, so it's a permitted use one-to-one, the conditional use for the screened in.
Well, what we were trying to address here is not, is people that are gonna rip down a house. And what did they have on that house? So did they have a porch of 100 square feet? Then when they rip it down, build a new house, they can have a porch of 100 square feet. Or if they had a deck. But yeah, 1 for 1. And the idea was, and the idea there was the whole bulk. And trying to let people maintain what they have, but not necessarily grow what they have. Now, they could, I guess, because it is all a conditional use, people can make a case for doing more than that. And, we could listen to the case.
Because I guess if you tore down a house and you had 100 square feet of porch, screened-in porch, you could replace 100 square feet of screened-in porch. It may not be in the same place that it was
Right.
before. It could be at a different part of the house.
Yep.
Yeah.
It could be an attachment, it could be incorporated into the house if they wanted, into the roof line.
Question, jumping around a little bit.
Yeah.
We've been doing that. Again, just looking at the John situation for now. Karen 7. We haven't talked about that.
Yeah, let's, we're getting on, we're 2 o'clock here, but let's see.
Broad carve out to incentivize people working with their existing. Exceptions for additions or modifications of existing residences in the district when working with a goal to retain the original residence. Exceptions for additions or modifications may be considered by the plan committee so long as the addition or modification match the original architecture to preserve the character of. How broad is that? Would that allow you to add more living space? Allow you to add more footprint? It's potentially a giantly broad catch-all. So
We talked about this in relation to the Golden Cottage. And it was originally going to be knocked down and replaced. And then he eventually, fortunately, found an architect and a contractor who was able to basically rebuild with interior steel, I understand, and save that cottage. And that was the idea of putting in 7. How do we give people latitude for saving what they have? So we end up with the same kind of eclectic group of cottages and homes that are out there right now.
Right.
So is that a place where someone could come with us and say, I'm working with my original residence, but in order to maintain it as whatever it might be, I don't want to put words on that thing, but I don't know that we've ever been able to say what those exceptions are. We just kind of gave ourselves an opportunity there to encourage people. What we didn't want to end up with is, I think it's a good way to say this. The price in the Golden, the price in the Culture House had a lot of similarities. And given our requirements, I would hate to see every house along that protected waterfront kind of look the same way. And that's almost, I want to say what we might end up with. So we were looking for ways to encourage people to keep what they got. That was the whole thing about reproduction. Even if you're bigger, if you reproduce, even if you're over 23 feet, we'll let you reproduce it.
When
Instead of
defining,
tearing down.
Right.
when defining special exceptions or conditional uses, and maybe I'm thinking about statutory language or other ordinance language, is, I guess, and I'm bringing this up with an eye towards maybe we need to better define this provision 7. But, I mean, it strikes me that the point of those is that if someone is willing, wants something and they're willing to give up something, should we codify the whole thought process of you're wanting something, but you're also giving up something that we deem in the public interest or in the interest of Ephraim, that would be good for us. in our public interest. You know, for example, someone is taking two buildings and making them one, and now there's less dense use, for example. They're increasing the pervious surface. I mean, we go down a huge litany of things that someone might do and say, hey, yes, I'm asking for this. And I think that that's what this provision is getting to.
Mhm.
That I'm asking for this, but I'm giving up this. And that this gives us the leeway to consider that for a special exception or a conditional use. I mean, is that the point of this? And could this be better written to accommodate that whole thought process?
Problem is, once you start specifying what thought process you want to problem, it doesn't cover everything else. I took Brett's question, we should have a section 7 or not, and I voted to keep it.
Right.
Because I do think that's useful. And I think once you go beyond what's here, which I agree is kind of vague, start running into problems. So you can't define every possible thing that comes up.
I mean, that's still the purpose of the plan committee, is to make those calls. And what we're trying to do is it gives us some latitude, and it also helps us to preserve what's there and give the homeowner some latitude in what they can come to us with.
So then I don't really have any problem with what's existing written here, because it gives guidance and what we would prefer to see, and that you have to do one for one. But if you come in and you have something and you've got a plan and you say, this is what I'd like to do, and it doesn't fit exactly, but there are, you know, alterations that are more appealing, we do have a latitude to do that, to make those decisions. Okay. You were going to say something, I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, I think you almost have to be broad to, you know, if it's enclosing a little area that's tucked within, you know, a box, or if it's roofed, I know there's a limited amount of structures there, but, or buildings, but,
There's a lot of variety.
it's still hard to, let's say, an ordinance within the ordinance cover every possibility.
Yeah.
As long as you have good guidance on what the intent of it is, I think you're potentially good.
It's impossible to define everything.
Well, it's almost 2:00, so I think we should call it. Why don't we make these modifications? Let's give some thought to the whole thing about attachments. How do we feel about that?
Can I just ask the fundamental question, kind of going back to what problem are we solving? What is really the goal? I think Monique brought up a very good point about the overall square footage or footprint. And I heard you saying, does it really matter whether that includes a deck or a porch or not?
I'm thinking more porches that were enclosed, not necessarily a deck. I see a deck as something
Okay,
different.
let's take that off the table, but something that's enclosed within the homes. Yeah. So, I mean, originally I thought the concern was we did not want to let that get added into the malleable, changeable footprint that could be rearranged. Or does that really make any difference? I'm kind of going back and thinking that, saying, well, what are we trying to avoid?
Especially in light of the fact that we're encouraging people to use their existing structures.
Right.
And we've also put in there that we're prioritizing changes that they go deep rather than wide.
Yeah, that solves a lot of concern, right? Just that simple observation. So, I mean, the point is that they have an attached porch that's walled in, or at least enclosed, let's say that way, with a roof line on it. Why are we worried that that could become a kitchen? That square footage could be, repurposed?
Isn't it a matter of adding to the total square?
As long as it does not add to the square footage.
But what total square footage you're speaking of?
Well, now, I guess at this point in my thinking, I would allow for including that in the total square footage.
Be careful There are some properties there that have a tremendous amount of square footage that are just helter-skelter like this.
Right.
You could end up with some pretty big buildings.
But that's gonna be a concern whether it's a house attachment or not. Right now, we're talking about whether, I mean, am I right? That was the concern, especially with Pulp, that we, and didn't want that screen or that porch to be included in the rearrangeable square footage.
Right.
Okay? Yeah, I guess I'm just revisiting it.
But if that's included and it's an open screen porch and we'll include it and now you're gonna go a story and a half of that.
Well, see, that got me to my next question. And that is, why are we allowing people to add a story?
A half story? That's a
Yeah.
decision we made 2 years ago.
Yeah, I know that, but, I mean, this is kind of coming back to invite us, or at least it's making me rethink, because that's what we're always concerned about. Like, you use the example of John's place, and suddenly having a 23-foot structure there. Well, why are we allowing a single story to become a story and a half in the first place?
Because we did it.
Well,
We did it.
but we, wait a second, we also did it with the footprint. A pretty solid definition of footprint. Obviously, a deck wasn't in the footprint, a porch wasn't in the footprint, a screened-in porch wasn't. It gets an argument if a window porch becomes part of the original footprint.
Yeah.
But what we're originally dealing with the footprint and said on that footprint, you go up 23 feet. So that's the latitude we're trying to
Does
do.
that will lead us to the solution? Okay,
Man.
we go back to that original,
Hold on, John.
just let me think this through. We go back to the original, what we defined by a footprint that doesn't include the porch, four-wall porch. You can, so, and is that exactly what kind of where we started? You can go up to a story and a half on the footprint, but you can't do anything more than just replicate one story on the porch.
Or replicate the porch.
So, yeah, porch.
That's
Okay,
where we kind of started.
all right, now I'm back to, so now how do we get stuck on this? That sounds like a good solution.
What is?
Well, we just said.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
For what it's worth on my property, it will never go up. And I can tell you because I have a recorded view easement with the hotel that just allows me to do that.
Okay. Well,
I
that's-
said that an hour and a half ago.
John, there's no such thing as never.
Well,
Doesn't exist. Never does.
In the eyes of the guy across the street, there is.
Okay, but we don't want to just focus on one property, because we've got 30, 35 properties out there. That's what we're trying to do, the protected
I
water.
can't speak to the other ones.
Yeah.
I can only speak to my situation.
Right, and I appreciate you being here, and it opens up the discussion when you start
Well,
to apply.
It goes to Andy's comment, that's all. I'm not going to, I can't.
Right,
Yeah, but.
right, but that's a specific situation of your
That's
property.
like having a neighborhood covenant.
Brains
that's
can't
gonna
handle
add
that
to what we. But
Well, think about attachments. We'll get the rest of it cleaned up again, and then we'll take another swing in it in 2 weeks.
Kayak at night when all the lights are on and you can see inside everybody's house to see like, what is the difference? Their difference is, or just like, really look at where are the porches? What, yeah. Thank you.
Good. Motion to adjourn,
So.
and a second? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.